So the question today is, which of the new Canucks players will have the biggest on-ice impact for the team this season? I'm not talking long-term, even though none of these, hardly any of these guys got contracts more than 1 year. Well, a couple of them do. But I'm talking about this season. A season where the Canucks so desperately want to make the playoffs. Which player is going to have the biggest impact? So we will start with defense. And the first one is Ian Cole. Now, Ian Cole was only signed to a 1-year contract. He is 34 years old, 6'1", 225-pound defenseman, last played with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Cole's been around St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Colorado, Minnesota, Carolina, Tampa Bay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means the Canucks are his 8th team, but he's very valuable. He's not going to put up a lot of points, but he is going to put up a lot of penalty minutes. He's very tough to play against. He can play on the penalty kill. Let's do a penalty kill counter, because I'm going to say that for each of these next guys I'm going to talk about. And he can play on both the left side and the right side. He actually played with Carson Soucy 1 year in Minnesota. So we're getting a veteran. We're getting a guy who can play on any of the 3 pairings. So think of Ian Cole basically replacing Luke Schenn. That's the way I look at it. They don't play exactly the same, but Ian Cole, listen to his penalty minutes. He had one season 115 penalty minutes. The last 2 years, he had 83 penalty minutes and then 61 penalty minutes. So he's not afraid to take penalties. He's not afraid to stand up for his teammates. And he's got decent offensive ability. He can score. Well, he doesn't get a lot of goals, 1, 2, and 3 in the last 3 seasons, but he can rack up the assists. In fact, he had 17 assists 2 seasons ago and 14 assists last year. And I think he was playing a third pairing role for Tampa last year. So does he play on the first pairing with Quinn Hughes? That might seem like a step up a little bit, but at the same time, like I said, if they might be looking at him to fill the Luke Schenn role. So Ian Cole signed for 1 year, and he's 34 years old, and expected to make our defense a lot tougher to play against. You might say it's Carson Soucy. Now, Carson Soucy, also a defenseman, even bigger than Cole. He's 6'5", 208. That's what he's listed. Remember, Ian Cole was listed at 6'1", 225. So Ian Cole's a lot heavier. Carson Soucy's a lot taller. Now, Soucy did get a 3-year contract. Now, he was the third pairing guy for Seattle last year, but he's also 5 years younger than Ian Cole at 29 years old. So Soucy played 3 years in Minnesota. One of those was with Ian Cole, and the last 2 years in Seattle. His production a bit better than Cole's. His last 3 years being 17 points, 21 points, 16 points. In fact, he had 10 goals in only 64 games in Seattle's first season. He also not afraid to take some penalty minutes, 51, 47, and 68 in his last 3 seasons. And he's also very tough to play against. He's going to make the team tougher on defense. He's going to make the team a better penalty killing team. So he's a good penalty killer. That's 2 now. 2 times I've said that. And overall, because he's younger, he's got a lot of potential. That's why the Canucks signed him to a 3-year contract as opposed to a 1-year contract. So maybe it's Carson Soucy that you're thinking about. He's going to have the biggest impact this year, and you want him to because he has 2 more years after this. Still not a problematic contract. I like the way that Rutherford and Alvin have been signing contracts. Nothing too crazy, nothing like Tyler Myers-esque under this regime. And there are some that think it's going to, and I've said this, that the pairings might shake out as to be Hughes, Cole, Soucy, Hronek, and then one of Hiroshi Wolanin with Myers while he's here. I have heard people that say that why not keep Noah Juleson with Hughes, and then you put Cole on the left side. So you could go Hughes, Juleson, Soucy, Hronek, and then Cole, Myers. So Cole comes down to a third pairing guy on the left side with Myers, as opposed to a first pairing guy on the right side with Hughes. But then are you comfortable with Noah Juleson getting that much time? So far we've done Ian Cole, 34 years old, 1-year contract. Carson Soucy, 29 years old, 3-year contract. So let's talk about the 2 forwards now. The first one is the most recent one, and that's Pius Suter, the guy that I wanted all along. You guys know that. I'm not the only one, but I was one of his most vocal proponents. 27 years old, and they signed Suter to a 2-year contract, very affordable. I think it's 1.6, if I'm not mistaken, per season. So very, very good. And despite being 27 years old, he's 5'11", 179, so he's not the biggest guy ever. But he's only played 3 years in the NHL because he went undrafted to the Blackhawks. 1 year in Chicago, did really well. 27 points in 55 games, and then he had 2 years in Detroit because Chicago couldn't afford him. Then he had 36 in 82, and then 24 in 79. So he's about a 0.4 points per game pace, and that's what you want from a third line center, which is what he was brought in to be. -5, -11, -3 in his 3 seasons. But remember, that was on a Chicago team and 2 Detroit teams that were not very good. What do we like about Pius Suter? They call him a Swiss Army knife. He can kind of do everything, kind of fit anywhere. Power play, penalty kill. I wouldn't say top line, but he can play second line if you need to. If Pettersson or Miller get hurt, God forbid, or maybe they put them together as part of the Lotto line or something. So Suter can play second line center minutes. He can drop down the fourth line, but I expect him to play mostly a third line center. I've watched a lot of his highlights. He's got a good wrist shot, not bad defensively. He's not amazing, but he's not bad defensively, and he's a great penalty killer. Cha-ching! So that's 3 penalty killers now, and the Canucks need his help on the penalty kill. Maybe whether he's part of the first unit or the second unit, whatever it is, can also probably center the second power play unit. So you can see why Suter could be a bit of a Swiss Army knife, a jack of all trades, and he could be a very valuable part of this team. Finally, we have another center, Teddy Blueger. Now, Blueger is signed for only 1 year, and this was the one, he got signed on July 1st, and Suter was signed only 2 weeks ago. So Blueger was the one who we thought was going to be our third line center, but with the signing of Suter, he gets dropped down to fourth line. Now, where Suter's 27, Blueger is 29, the same age of Carson Soucy, a bit bigger than Suter. He's 6 feet tall, 185 pounds, but we're not expecting massive offense from Teddy Blueger. He did 5 years in Pittsburgh, 1 year in Vegas. And, his point totals throughout his career, 10, 22, 22, 28, 10, and 6. Last year was a combination. I should learn how to read. Last year was a combination of Pittsburgh and Vegas. So it was a combined 16 points last year in 63 games. Only 4 goals, though. So I don't think we can expect 10 or 12 or 15 goals from Blueger. If he gets 5 to 10 throughout the season, that's great as a fourth line center. He's hard to play against too. He's not afraid to play really good defense, to sacrifice offense. He's going to be reliable. He's got generally decent plus-minus stats, and he's, guess what, a good penalty killer. Ching, cha-ching, ding-a-ling. So that's 4 guys now that I've talked about. All 4 assets of theirs, they can help the league, our team's horrible, almost record-setting in a futility standpoint, penalty kill. So that is Teddy Blueger. Off the top of my head, I don't think he might be the least impactful out of the 4, but that's fine. You just need him to play shutdown minutes. You need him not to get outscored by the other fourth line, and to hold his own on the penalty killing side. So in a second, I'm going to give you a chance to talk to me about Cole, Soucy, Suter, or Blueger. But I'm going to throw one other name in there. And it's kind of cheating, but it's not, because Philip Hronek was acquired last year before the trade deadline, but he only got to play 4 games for the Canucks, and then they shut him down with shoulder surgery. Now, Hronek is probably the most talented out of all the guys that I've mentioned. He's only 25 years old, so he has the most upside too, 6 feet, 190, and he played his entire career in Detroit. His points as a defenseman, 23, 31, 26, 38, and then last year, 38 with Detroit and 1 assist when he was with Vancouver. So he technically had 39 points last season. Horrible plus-minus numbers, but that's what you get for playing with Detroit. And not afraid to take some penalties as well, usually about 30 to 40 penalty minutes. But Hronek is a really good skater. He's got really great offensive upside. And so, we're not going to include him in our discussion because I think, I don't know about you, I would pick Hronek for sure because I think he's the most skilled of all 5 guys. By the way, he can help with the penalty kill. Cha-ching, ta-ding, ding-a-ling. So he'll help with the penalty kill. But I think, I technically it wasn't an off-season acquisition. and I think he's going to be outstanding. So for the purposes of our argument, we won't include him. Otherwise, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he would run away with it. So I'm asking you, between Ian Cole, 1 year, Carson Soucy, 3 years, Pius Suter, 2 years, and Teddy Blueger, 1 year, 2 forwards, 2 defensemen, which of those players is going to have the biggest impact on the Vancouver Canucks this upcoming season? If I had to pick one really quickly, I'll pick Suter. I think Suter definitely more than Blueger. I think Cole is going to hold his own and be, and I think Soucy is going to be a little bit up and down as he gets more responsibility with the Canucks over what he had with Seattle. But I think that Pius Suter is going to make a big difference on the penalty kill, shoring up our third line, and then maybe put some goals in on the second power play unit. But obviously, I want all 4 players to play well for the Canucks because it would mean a much better season for this team overall. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And for those of you on the live stream, I'll give you a chance to share your piece in about 2 or 3 minutes.